Everybody good with the white? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Might cool to be kind of down here. Don't want to get in your way. Might cool down here. Okay, we're gonna do a mic check. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Mic check. Everybody good? Good. Okay. Are we good, baby? Sure. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna make a statement first in English, then in Spanish, and then we will take questions at the end. But before we get started, I do want to say that we do have history here in Colony Ridge. For those of you who have followed the news here in Colony Ridge, there not only has been a history of crackdown by DPS and law enforcement and ICE, but there's also been a more than 10-year history that FIEL has here in bringing awareness to this community, in trying to get people to not get scammed by some of these builders and some of these people that sell the land out here. Actually, in this very parking lot, I was just reminded that about 6 months ago, we held a Know Your Rights forum here. We wanted people to come and to know what their rights are. And I remember that day, coincidentally, maybe or maybe not, this parking lot was full of DPS officials and nobody showed up because they were deterred by the police presence that was here 6 months ago. Today, we have been here for about an hour and a half. And two very interesting things. We saw three very interesting things. In the first interaction that we had, we saw Mark Cruiser from the Liberty County Sheriff's Office. Then we saw a DPS officer in front. And then we saw a truck, a work truck that had ladders and things on top. And then in front of them was an unmarked vehicle. So we didn't stop because we don't want to interfere with the investigation. We also didn't want to stop traffic. But subsequently, we got a video from one of our followers that showed that the people that were in the unmarked vehicle was HSI or ICE. So even though we knew it, we couldn't confirm it, but later on video confirmed that it was ICE. The second very interesting thing that we have seen just as we got here about an hour and a half ago is we saw well over a dozen traffic stops happening along this main road. And there was people, getting pulled over at the Family Dollar, getting pulled. So if you have the experience that we do, you know that 12 stops in about an hour is not normal. There's something happening. They're trying to either send a message or there's an operation going on that can lead us to say that. On top of that, the governor did tweet out about an hour or 2 hours ago that there was going to be ICE DPS collaboration here, specifically in Colony Ridge in the Cleveland, Texas area. And third, we got pulled over. So we were coming down trying to get people at traffic stops, telling them to know that they shouldn't sign anything, that they shouldn't talk to ICE if ICE came. And a DPS officer followed us for about 10 minutes. And then they lit us up. We obviously pulled over, and the cop said that his excuse for pulling us over was we did not have a front license plate. We in fact did have a front license plate, and we pointed it out to him 3 times, and he said, "I don't see it." And then he went around the car to see what other things he could find with the car, and when he found nothing, he said, "Well, I must not know how to do my job. I see your license plate. Have a good day." And he lets us go. Had we not known to remain calm, had we not known that we can assert our rights to say, we have a license plate, there's no reason for you to us be pulling over, who knows what else could have happened. And that's the fear that we have in a lot of these communities, that some people may not know their rights, some people may not know to remain silent, and then these things happen. So it's really, really important for folks to know their rights, for folks to know that if ICE comes to their door, they should not open it unless they have a judicial warrant, specifically saying who they are asking for, specifically what they're doing. And one of the things that unfortunately is going to happen in the next couple of days, that has already been happening in areas like Houston, is you're going to see some of these areas start turning into ghost towns. And that is going to hurt not only the immigrant communities that live here, the business owners that live here, but the community at large. So the damage has already been done. Even if there's no more collaborations up to today, which the governor has promised there will be, the damage to our community has been done. We are standing in front of an elementary school where these kids are expecting for their parents to come pick them up after school. And this is why we are here, to protect these children, to make sure that they live a simple, honest, and good life that any child should live. They should not be scared of coming home to an empty house. Mi nombre es César Espinosa y estamos aquí en Colony Ridge, en Cleveland, Texas. Estamos aquí porque hoy anunció el gobernador y también la comunidad nos alertó de que había un operativo de DPS y ICE aquí en esta área. So, venimos aquí nosotros para asegurar que la comunidad supiera sus derechos, conociera lo que está pasando y supieran que al final del día esto es lo que está prometiendo el gobernador. Esto ya ha pasado por mucho tiempo. Hace 6 meses aquí tuvimos un foro de inmigración y vimos mucha presencia de DPS y eso lo hacen para tratar de desalentar a las personas, tratar de espantar a las personas que no vengan para acá. Queremos nosotros hacer lo opuesto, queremos que la gente viva vidas plenas, queremos que los niños que están aquí en esta escuela tengan la seguridad que al salir van a tener sus padres en sus casas. Por eso estamos aquí para alentar la comunidad, para decirle esto no es normal, que hayamos presenciado más de una docena de policías parando a personas en 1 hora y media no es normal. Y también a nosotros nos paró la policía, nos dijo que no teníamos placas en nuestro carro cuando efectivamente tenemos placas, todo estaba en orden y caminó varias veces alrededor del vehículo para ver si encontraba una excusa para molestarnos o para pararnos o para cuestionarnos más. Cuando no lo encontró, él dijo, a lo mejor no sé lo que estoy haciendo y se fue. Pero es importante que toda la comunidad conozca sus derechos, que sepan que tienen el derecho a no dar ninguna información acerca de su estatus migratorio y que sepan cómo protegernos, porque así solamente es que vamos a proteger la comunidad. So at this time we'll take questions. Some of the things we do not know is we do not know how many people have been picked up. We don't know where else they have been. We have received reports as far away as 30 minutes away from here, as south, north. And then when we get there, we ask people, and they say they were here, but now they're gone, and we haven't been able to tell who is picked up. Now, if people are picked up, we also are not able to tell if they're part of an operation or if they're what ICE has been calling collateral damage, meaning that if people just happen to get put over, then they get asked question about their status and they say something, they may call ICE. So we don't know we don't know those facts. But we encourage you to reach out to DPS, to ICE, and see who it is that they actually picked up today. Because we have seen in about 40% of nationwide roundups, we have seen 40% be collateral damage, meaning that people that did not have prior history with ICE or prior history with police or anything involvements like that. Okay, so we'll take questions.
How do you classify or define this day?
The classifier
How do you classify it? What do you want to call this? How do you define it?
We want to call this a chilling effect to the community. I mean, people, if you see, when we were driving up and down the road, we knew that this was uncommon. This is not something that happens every day. So even for us that we do have driver's licenses and things like that, it's still very intimidating to see. Now, these kids that are in school, they're going to come out and see that, and they're going to ask themselves what is going on, and we don't feel that that's justice.
What questions were you asked when you were pulled over?
They didn't really ask us any questions. They just said the DPS asserted that he said you don't have a license plate, and I very quickly said yes we do. And he said, no, you don't. And it was a yes, you do, no, you don't kind of back and forth kind of thing. And he walked around the vehicle several times, kind of like looking around to see if there was something else wrong with the car. And then when we pointed against the license plate, he was like, oh, here it goes. Oh, I must not know what I'm doing. But he did follow us for about 10 minutes or so, drove in front of us when we were at a stop sign. Looked right at us, and then he went around. We made a left turn, and then he turned around and followed us for about 10 minutes before he initiated the traffic stop. Of course, we stopped immediately because we know better. We also don't want people to escalate situations like that, and then that's what happened. And we do have video of the interaction that we have with police.
How do you view that? How does that make you feel? How do you view that?
Honestly, and I don't even know if I'm saying this on the record, but I'll say it on the record. I feels like we were driving while brown. We were just pulled over for no reason. It was an unlawful stop. He shouldn't have stopped us. Our vehicle has all the proper registrations, all the proper tags. and we shouldn't have been pulled over. And that makes us more angry because if it's a person who does have their vehicle in the correct order, but they just don't happen to have a status or a license, then they could also end up in a really, really bad situation. So we also need clarification on DPS on what they're doing. Yes, ma'am.
We spoke to a DPS trooper in one of those stops, and he was really confused about why the governor mentioned DPS on social media. Obviously, you mentioned collateral, those type of cases, but they claim to not be involved in anything what Abbott said. What do you say about that?
Well, so a couple of things. Number one, he does mention them, and whether and police have what we've learned in the last few weeks is that they have almost permission to lie and to get away with it. And eyes can lie to you and tell you they do have a warrant when they don't, or things like that. So unfortunately at this point, due to the state of affairs with the federal government and with our Texas government, we're losing faith in what the reality is. We're losing faith. They claim that they're stopping these bad criminals and really dangerous people. And we, for one, would support that. We don't want bad criminals in our community. We believe in public safety. We even go as far, for those of you who have known us for a really long time, we go as far as collaborating with the police so that at the end of the day, we can make our community safer. But when we have these types of operatives, when you see something like we saw this morning, and it's not the first time that this is happening here, people have been telling us, but it's not until we see it for ourselves that we realize that something is out of the norm here. And that's very troublesome, because then what happens is that instead of cracking down on crime, you allow the criminal element to expand, because now people are afraid to report smaller crimes.
We've spoken before about the fear the immigrant community has because of raids or operations like this. Do you think that those fears are now justified because of such a public operation?
Well, that's one. The other thing that was said over the weekend that worries us right now, which is why we acted so fast today, is because immigration said they were going to start the operation knock and talk. So they were going to go at random, and the director of ICE said that they were going to go around and knock on random people's door and see who opened the door, and question them, right? And so we are already on a heightened sense of alert, and to hear the myriad of reports and videos and calls that came into our office this morning obviously rang a very delicate bell for us. Yes, Maria.
Ridge has been in the news a lot in the past several years, especially because of the land, the property, and it's also been named a safe haven for undocumented immigrants. What are your thoughts on Governor Abbott specifically targeting or tweeting that targeting Colony Ridge today?
It's a lot of propaganda from the governor. It's equating, it almost mixing people, almost saying that just because people are here as immigrants and they should be categorized as criminals. Like I said, we for one want communities to be safe. We want people not to live in fear, but at the same time, you can't just do a sweep and expect. We encourage the governor to do his job, to have DPS do their job and do proper investigations to get to the actual criminals, not just cast a wide open net. What we saw today was a pretty wide net casted in 12 stops, in almost a stop every 10 minutes, almost a stop every 5 minutes, and they're pulling people over left and right, and that's not correct. We don't feel that that's the right thing to do. The other thing is that it hurts our communities by, like what I said earlier, it takes away trust from law enforcement, whether it's DPS or the sheriff, and it also makes children scared. It also, tonight, people are going to go home, and tomorrow, you guys should call the school and ask them how many kids are missing, because people are going to be afraid to interact and to come out and to even drive out. We had a lady call us on our way over here, and she was saying, my brother's over there, should he get out of there? And we're like, if he doesn't have a license, we recommend that he stays home right now until the afternoon when things kind of blow over.
Are you mostly hearing reports of people being pulled over, or are you hearing reports also of people going into businesses, into homes?
We hear both. So we are hearing both. Earlier, there was a taqueria that's just down the road, and they were saying that that DPS was congregating over there, as well as the Family Dollar, which is why we've been kind of going back and forth. But at the end of the day, we have not yet confirmed. We've heard, but we have not yet confirmed of like a workforce raid or something like that. It seems like they're just pulling people over and then escalating it from there. That's what we know so far. But that's why we encourage you all to call DPS and ICE and to get an official statement from them. Jessica.
¿Alguna recomendación
La situación, lo importante, lo que dice la ley de Texas es que la gente tiene que dar su nombre verdadero y su fecha de nacimiento. Y ya, si es un ticket, nada más tomar el ticket. Ahora, si los empiezan a cuestionar sobre sus derechos, sobre su estatus migratorio, entonces pueden mostrar la tarjeta roja que traemos nosotros en el carro para pasarle a cualquier persona que tenga. Las hemos dado, ya hemos distribuido más de 15,000 tarjetas rojas en toda el área y queremos que más gente lo sepa para que conozcan su derecho de permanecer callado y de no abrir la puerta, de grabar, de todo eso. Yes.
One question, and I'm sorry if you already went over this. I know we we're running a little bit late. Have you actually seen yourself any immigration enforcement or ICE enforcement happening today?
So earlier, it just happened to be coincidentally, we took a left turn into the street because we saw lights, and it was a sheriff's officer, a DPS officer in front. Then there was a work truck, and then there was another unmarked vehicle in front with lights. And so in a subsequent video that one of our followers sent us on social media, they show the man getting handcuffed and it says ICE in the back of the vest. So whether it was that person being looked for or whether it was DPS that called ICE, that has happened before, those are the questions that we should get clarification from DPS. But what we've seen today is we've seen a huge presence of DPS, and it just takes, I encourage you guys to drive around for 20-30 minutes and you're going to see them in the smaller streets, even though they're kind of hard because they're moving around a lot. Other questions that you may have?
What's next for you guys?
Well, what's next is we're going to continue to do the Know Your Rights. We are, during the lives that we were doing, we're encouraging people, repeating the Know Your Rights stuff for people so that they will know how to have these interactions. Like I said, in a perfect world, we wouldn't want to have to do this. We would want people to be able to go to work, go to school, continue to live their lives. But unfortunately, it seems like Governor Abbott specifically is ramping things up in the state, trying to push his agenda and trying to use Colony Ridge, an area that's highly immigrant, as a poster child for what he wants to do in the rest of the state.
It seems that there's a goal, of deportation that they want to meet. What can you say to the community, that's going to be affected by these goals that they have to meet eventually?
Well, for the community, number one, they should be prepared for anything. And they should, if you're here undocumented, unfortunately, right now is the time to get your affairs in order and make sure that you have a plan in case you get hit by the storm, right? But at the end of the day, we encourage people to stay vigilant. We encourage people to know their rights and to talk to their children, because a lot of children are also being affected by just the notion of coming. I myself, I can tell you, growing up, and when I was 8 years old, my mom, we lived in Ohio. My mom told us one day, she had a conversation with us around the dinner table, and she said, if one day you come home and we're missing, these are the numbers to call. And as a child, you don't understand, but then you always have that in the back of your mind. Even as you're going to school, coming back, you know where the little black book is. And that's something that we don't believe a child should go through. Sí, señora.
Por favor, ¿nos podría
Sí.
repetir esto en español? Porque
Sí.
mayormente estamos
Sí.
compartiendo para habla hispana.
Sí, por favor, a todas las personas de Colony Ridge, si ven algo, grábenlo. Tienen el derecho, tienen 4 derechos muy importantes: el derecho de grabar, el derecho de permanecer callado, el derecho de no firmar nada, y tienen el derecho de no abrir la puerta si inmigración viene a su casa. Eso es importante que todo eso lo tengan en pie. Ahorita, si quiere, podemos hablar un poquito más para que la gente, si tiene preguntas, las podemos contestar en vivo, porque sabemos que mucha gente, pero les pedimos a toda la gente que permanezcan en calma, que sigan a la organización FIEL, que estamos haciendo este trabajo para poder tener estos talleres de Conoce tus Derechos y poder que la gente sepa cómo protegerse en contra de inmigración.
Un punto muy importante me parece sobre el plan de los niños, porque muchos papás están ahora mismo aterrorizados, es la palabra.
Sí.
Y he recibido mensajes de amistades y
Sí.
como hemos trabajado desde hace 4 años
Sí, sí,
muy
sí,
de
sí,
cerca
sí.
en la comunidad,
Sí.
estoy recibiendo
Sí.
mensajes y llamadas. La recomendación que hizo, si nos la puede repetir en español, sobre los niños obtener un plan.
Es importante que todos tengamos un plan familiar por si nos llega a pegar la tormenta de una deportación, que tengamos cómo protegernos. La organización FIEL está proveyendo estos planes para las familias. Solo les exhortamos a que o nos inviten para acá para que demos un taller, o que hagamos un taller virtual para que todo el mundo pueda recibir la información. Y ahorita vamos a estar con ustedes, regreso con ustedes. Déjenme terminar esto y ahorita les doy unos consejos bien buenos. Ok, gracias. Yes. Sí, el gobernador dijo que le ha trabajado por meses y sí lo han estado trabajando por meses. Operation Lone Star, SB3, SB4 ya han estado en orden por mucho tiempo, pero ahora ya se sienten envalentonados por la nueva administración y saber que pueden recoger a las personas al azar. De nuevo, nosotros nos pararon sin razón. ¿Cuántas personas sin razón están parando y los están deteniendo o les están llamando a ICE para que venga por ellos? Eso es lo preocupante. Sí. So the worrisome thing is that, you know, how many people are getting pulled over just like we did without any reason, and they're getting taken away. So please ask those questions. Thank you so much for being out here. We are going to be sharing, if you all want the video of when we got stopped, it's on our Facebook page. It's on our Instagram page. FIEL, please. This is a official. You guys can use it. So yes, you have my permission to use it, and please share it or whatever else y'all need to do. One last question. Did you have another question?
Go over you said 4 or 5.
The 4 rights that we tell people that they have, which is constitutional rights that every single one of us has, is the right to remain silent, the right to record, the right to not sign anything unless your attorney is present, and the right to not open your door unless somebody has a judicial warrant that's signed by a judge. That's very specific. You can keep that door shut, and then ICE or immigrant or police are not allowed to enter your home. So we want everybody to know this. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Cesar, do you have that? Do you have that video that the person sent you?
Yes.
Let me see. I don't have video, but it's only 22 seconds.